صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر وإن يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر وكذبوا واتبعوا أهواءهم وكل أمر مستقر ولقد جاءهم من الأنباء ما فيه مزدجر حكمة بالغة فما تغني النذر فتول عنهم يوم يدعو الداعي إلى شيء نكر خش عن أبصارهم يخرجون من الأجداث كأنهم جراد منتشر مهطعين إلى الداع يقول الكافرون هذا يوم عسر كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح فكذبوا عبدنا وقالوا مجنون وازدجر فدعا ربه أني مغلوب فانتصر ففتحنا أبواب السماء بماء منهمر وفجرنا الأرض عيونا فالتقى الماء على أمر قد قدر وحملناه على ذات ألواح ودسر تجري بأعيننا جزاء لما كان كفر ولقد تركناها آية فهل من مدكر فكيف كان عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the tawfiq to be here. Inshallah, we're looking at Surah Al-Qamar, the first 17 ayats. This surah is a Makki surah, and it was revealed between the Bi'tha and the Hijrah. Bi'tha means when Rasulullah got prophethood, and Hijrah means when he did the migration. The time between that is 13 years. Somewhere in the middle there, surah was revealed. Okay, and the incident where the first ayats were revealed was that Rasulullah, the story behind it, he was in Mina, and the mushrikeen asked for a miracle. So Prophet he split the moon, and then he just pointed at it and split the moon. And they saw this miracle with their own eyes. They saw that the moon had split and had gone behind two mountains, and then it came back. So immediately, just like how they were very stubborn, they said, "Oh, magic." And that was another one. It's just continual magic. So a good test for them was that, like usually in magic, you're tricking the eyes of people who are very close to you, not people who are far from you. So a good test of that time was the caravans that were coming. They should tell when they were traveling here, did they see a split or not? And they all came, they're like, we saw a shocking thing, we were traveling at night, and it split. So all the caravans, when they came in, the real proof was the caravans. I was like, even from their own, their own touchstone, which is magic, from a magic perspective, if we were to agree with them for argument's sake. But they came back and they attested to this. But this was a great miracle, and the mushrikeen still rejected it. Obviously, this was a big miracle, and those who were going to believe in it believed in it. Those who were going to be stubborn, they were stubborn with it, just like it always happens with ayat. So the first, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, start. اقتربت الساعة, the hour of doom has drawn near, and the moon has split asunder. Okay? So this is the reference to that. The moon has split, and the hour has drawn near. What does it mean? The hour has drawn near. It could be the hour has drawn near to Yawm al-Qiyamah, or this could be the Prophet ﷺ himself, because the Prophet himself coming, the final prophet, is a big sign of the Day of Judgment. Then the next ayah, وَإِن يَرَوْا آيَةً, when these people see a sign, they turn away and say, this is magic, transient magic. سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. Mustamir has two meanings. Continual. This is continual magic, meaning, oh, na'udhu billah, Prophet that you just been doing, constantly this magic. Na'udhu billah, this was one accusation. And also, when this event happened, there was no denial. It was like so obvious to them that there's no historical reference that they denied it. They never denied it. They left it to that. Meaning, once the caravans came, everybody testified that they have seen the splitting of the moon. No one had ever denied it. Sihrun mustamir, another meaning of mustamir is passing, meaning that they're saying that no, this is just a magic that just passes. No, magics pass. It's a magic that passes. Then the next ayah. وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا, and they deny and they follow their desires. وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ, and while every matter has to settle at some time, that these mushrikeen, and it's a manner of Arabic language where it says kazzabu, they deny, and then the object is removed from there, because you could fill in the blanks yourself. Right? The Quran leaves a lot of blanks. It goes, they denied, and they followed their desire. They left after denied. Denied what? So you can fill in the blanks, whatever you like. They denied the Quran, they denied the Prophet ﷺ, they denied every miracle of his. So they denied, and they followed their desires. And they're saying, وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ, everything is going to get settled one day. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the world is built upon faith and nabis, and every matter will get settled. Next ayah, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ, and verily there has come to them from the newses, مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٍ, that in which there's enough to deter, muzdajar, like there's enough warning in it. And here the word uses naba. It has come to them from amba. Amba is a plural of naba, and prophets are called nabis. Nabi is a different word than khabar. Khabar means news. Naba also means news, but it means important news. So a Nabi is not just giving you some news, he's giving you the most important news. The other word we hear is khabar. That could be true or false. What the Nabi gives is just, so it's saying that verily had come to them from the mushrikeen, amba, from important newses, ma fihi muzdajar, in it there was enough warning, full warning. Also, full warning. Meaning Allah Subhanahu is saying that it's full warning, meaning the way we've explained it. And even if you think about it, the stories of the prophets, just a thought that came to my mind that I share it. You look those events, some parts of those events are mentioned, like the Yusuf al-Islam story, any stories of the past, and which is enough for a warning. There's no more details needed. I think it's just enough as a warning, as something that has happened to deter people. So what it's saying here, ma fihi muzaja, that in these, what has come to them from the important news, it has everything in it for full warning. Next ayah, hikmatun balighatun. Containing a perfect wisdom. فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ, but the warnings are of no avail to them. Meaning that the Quran, hikmatun baligha, means it touches the heart. The wisdom in the Quran, it touches the heart. فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ, but the nudhur, the word nudhur is a plural of the word nadir. Nadir means warn. Nadir could either be a human or it could be a statements. So obviously there were humans too, and then humans also brought revelation for statements. So nadir is a singular, the plural is nudhur. فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ, that the warnings, you could say warners, didn't benefit them, and neither the warnings benefited them. So we sent them all this, the full means of warning, but it didn't avail them anything. Obviously, let's talk about the state of the mushrikeen. So it began with talking about the miracle, the great miracle. We talked about now the mushrikeen, their state of denial. Then, فَتَوَلَّ عَنْهُمْ. So now, why didn't they accept the warning? Because their hearts became hard. When you became too attached to the dunya, unnecessarily attached, overly attached, and so their heart became too hard to accept advice. فَتَوَلَّ عَنْهُمْ. So turn away from them, Rasulullah. This 6th ayah where it says فَتَوَلَّ عَنْهُمْ, turn away from them, it shows that, when you're reaching out to people for Islam, there's actually an end point to that. Isn't it a point like you've been reminding somebody to come to the masjid, and at some point you just stop, right? So there's an end. So mushrikeen also had crossed the limits, meaning Prophet was telling them, it says, turn away from them, O Prophet. So from that verse sentence, turn away from them, Prophet. It means there's actually an end of tabligh in this world. Look, there's only a limited time you can reach out. So with them, it had come to an end. Lasta alayhim, and this is also connected to the other verse of the Quran. Lasta alayhim. You're not somebody who's a compeller. Prophet's job was not that he forced you to believe everything he's saying and make you do it. His job was just to convey. Okay, to turn away from them. The day that the caller will call them to a gruesome thing. Right? So now it's showing the scenes of the Yawm al-Qiyamah, that when you deny this much on the earth and you treat the Nabi of Allah this like that, this is your state of denial, then this is how we're going to treat you on the Day of Judgment then. So now that's beginning to show what will happen to the mushrikeen. The day they'll be called to a gruesome thing. Okay, خُشَّعًا أَبْصَارُهُم, their eyes will be downcast. يَخْرُجُونَ, they'll be exiting from their graves, كَأَنَّهُمْ جَرَادٌ مُنْتَشِرٌ, as though they are scattered locusts. So in this verse it says scattered locusts, exiting from the graves. Also كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبْثُوث in a different surah, moths, scattered moths. Some insects and animals that travel in certain patterns, but the moths don't. They just go everywhere. So they'll also be resembling scattered moths or locusts. Then the next verse, مُهْطِعِينَ إِلَى الدَّاعِ, they'll be rushing to the caller, fleeing, terrified. مُهْطِعِينَ, it conveys the meaning of terrified. إِلَى الدَّاعِ, when somebody's really terrified and you're in big trouble, and then the person who you're in trouble with says, come over here now, and you're like, yeah, we're coming. Because you're terrified to death. So this is depicting them, that when they'll be called to the grave, because you'll get a sense that it's over. That this is it. This is what the whole world was about. Yawm al-Qiyamah. It's finally happening, right? So now, and then somebody will speak to them. Of course, you think the angels are not going to speak to them nicely. If you're bad people, you'll be called harshly. But you'll still come to them fleeing. So even the mushrikeen running to that caller. يَقُولُ الْكَافِرُونَ, the kafirs will say that day, هَذَا يَوْمٌ عَسِيرٌ, a very difficult day. Today we're having it very tough. This is actually a very tough day. So it began with the miracle, right? And the mushrikeen's denial of it. Now that she's saying that, okay, you acted like this on the earth, then this is what your results are going to be on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, that you'll be called to something very gruesome, and then the caller will call, you'll flee to the caller. And even that idea of fleeing to the caller, why would you go run to someone that you're going to be in trouble with? It's because you have no choice. So you're locked in that day. And then they'll say, Haza yawmun asir. So you could feel so much emotion here, right? By if you just read these verses, fleeing to the caller, and then the disbeliever saying, this is a very difficult thing. That's it. Up to here was the scenes of the Yawm al-Qiyamah, the miracle, the mushrikeen, and then what will happen to them because of their denial on Yawm al-Qiyamah. State of the deniers. This is the state of the deniers mentioned here. Obviously, it's not limited to them. Anyone who will deny, this will be their state. Allahumma hafazna, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect. Now, moving on from this point onward, in this Surah Al-Qamar, the Surah, the moon, the rest is this prophet stories of something about Nuh alayhi salam, Qawm Aad, Qawm Thamud, Qawm Lut, Qawm Fir'aun is going to be mentioned, and at the ending there's mention of destiny, and that's where the surah will come to an end. Okay. So first we have here is Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. كَذَّبَتْ قَبْلَهُمْ قَوْمُ نُوحٍ. Verily before them, Qawm Nuh the people of Nuh also denied. So giving solace to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that people before, history repeats itself. This is a pattern. Understand? This is a pattern. Nabi comes, there's those who are going to follow, those who are going to be humble, and those who won't. فَكَذَّبُوا عَبْدَنَا. They also denied our servant. It's also very special, they denied our servant. Rasulullah is also the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before, they also denied our servant. وَقَالُوا, and they said, Majnoon, he's a madman, was dujir, and they also threatened him. The word used here is dujir. It's similarly when look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving all of humanity a warning, right? Full warning, or a threat of Yawm al-Qiyamah, of bad deeds. Similarly, the bad people will give threats to the Nabis. So that the language is the same. So Allah's threat to humanity, for evil acts, and people's threat to the Nabis. Majnoon was dujir. فَدَعَى رَبَّهُ. Then he made dua against his people. But Nuh alayhi salam, let's talk a little bit about Nuh alayhi salam. 950 years tabligh. He was the prophet who did the longest tabligh. And only a few people accepted his message. The longest da'wah, 950 years, as the Quran gives us that number. He went through so much hardship, but he was always having sabr and shukr. In one place in the Quran, when speaking about Nuh alayhi salam, the Quran says, وَمَا كَانَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. That with Nuh alayhi salam was very little. He had a huge people he was sent to, very little went with him. And the second thing, ذُرِّيَّةَ مَنْ حَمَلْنَا مَعَ نُوحٍ. Whoever went with him in that boat, who we carried along, إِنَّهُ كَانَ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. An interesting attribute there, that he was a very grateful servant. The interesting thing to note there is grateful servant. Meaning that it should have said عَبْدًا صَبُورًا, very patient servant. Because how could you live 950 years amongst the people and they're going to reject you all this time? So you were practicing a lot of sabr to carry on. Because he only got fed up at the end. It's only 950 when he became old and tired. He got illness, when he's getting close to his death. That's when he made the dua. So it doesn't happen quickly. It happens after all that. So actually he did sabr, but not just sabr. He was beyond that. He was doing shukr. He was doing shukr for the little. So we learn a lesson from that when we reach out, we do the work of deen. If you have only few people around you, right, you should be shukr. Sometimes we say we're having sabr, that we don't have too much people here. But no, it rather should be the other way around. You do shukr for what you do have. Tawfiq that Allah was granting you. So Nuh alayhi salam was a man doing, the highlighted attribute is shukr. Shukr for the achievements he was having with the few people who were following him. Okay? As opposed to having sabr as to why your viewership is not going up. Understand? Not the other, no. Rather do the other one, which is shukr. That I have 2 viewership, that's it. This is good. Understand? This is people following me is 2. Okay. Shukr. So may Allah SWT make us of that. So look at the life of Nuh alayhi salam and then look at the attribute which is highlighted, shakura. Okay. Then that at old age, during his illness, then finally he makes this dua. Rabbahu anni maghlubun fantasir. Oh my Lord, I have become dominated. So now you take my badla. You take my revenge. Meaning he made dua against them all the way at the end. This is the dua. Then فَفَتَحْنَا أَبْوَابَ. So Allah sent them the punishment. So we opened the heavens, the doors of the heaven, بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ, with pouring sky, with water pouring forth profusely. Right, the water started coming from up, down. وَفَجَّرْنَا الْأَرْضَ عُيُونًا, and we caused the earth to gush forth as springs. From the earth, all the springs, and also maybe actually the language is very general, that more springs came. It could be that the springs are already there, they're all gushing. There's rain coming from top, and it doesn't have to be just the springs that are there, more have come. So water is coming from down, also from top. Because you can imagine, right, Nuh alayhi salam's flood. It went all the way to the peaks of the mountains. Everything was flooded. So imagine how much water had to come and how it had to come. Also, elsewhere in the Quran it says وَفَارَتْ التَّنُّورِ. Even the tannoor, where they would cook some food, it was a sign for Nuh alayhi salam that once your boat is built, once you see that much water that is coming in from your tannoor, there'll be a sign that now you need to get onto the boat and be ready now. So Allah mentions this punishment. فَالْتَقَى الْمَاءُ عَلَى أَمْرٍ. So the water of both kinds met together for a destined event. Meaning the up and down, these waters came and met for a destined event. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These things were planned. This was their end of that nation. وَحَمَلْنَاهُ. Then we carried him عَلَى ذَاتِ أَلْوَاحٍ وَدُسُرٍ. Then we carried him on some planks and nails. So instead of saying boat, it goes, we carried him on some planks, and because the boat is made out of planks and nails. We carried him. I wasn't able to look up what was the hikmah behind that. Why didn't just say boats? It says, وَحَمَلْنَا, we carried him upon planks and nails, which was a boat. Okay. Then, تَجْرِي بِأَعْيُنِنَا, which sailed under our eyes. Meaning that, like everything like trying to, which sailed under our eyes. It means everything is in our control. Everything is in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not like something outside of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's domain event. Nothing is outside of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's domain. Jaza'an, and this was a payment. Everything is being flooded. Nuh is being flooded. This is a payment. Liman, for the one who kana kufir, who people were being ungrateful to. When Nuh was a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These people were being ungrateful to him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to get them back for being ungrateful to him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that. And that's the man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were so ungrateful to him. And then, if you look at this wording here, Jaza'an is a recompense for the one who has been made. Many translators have translated like this. That this is a recompense for the one who has been, people were ungrateful to. Then, وَلَقَدْ تَرَكْنَهَا آيَةً. Then we left it as a sign. This event that just took place, we made it as an ayah. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Is there anyone who's going to take lesson from this? Now, what is this? What's made an ayah? So either we can say the interpretation of the ayah is a storm, or either the boat. The boat is left as a sign for people to take a lesson from, or the storm, or the whole event as you're reading it now. However way you want to take it. Some of the Sahaba were able to see the ark of Nuh alayhi salam. Also, remember ayah. All the Quranic. All the Quran is what? Ayat. Each thing is we don't say these are jumla, sentences of the Quran. What do we say? Sometimes we say sentences when we translate it vaguely in English language. But these are what? Ayat, right? Quran's ayat. Every ayah can bring someone close to Allah. Can be a means of hidayah for anyone. Just like that boat is a hidayah, that storm is a hidayah. Every ayah is an ayah. That's why we call it an ayah. A sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that tawfiq. Doesn't give us that kind of attachment. That we reflect upon. The Quran's meanings are endless actually. Well, the primary meaning never changes. Primary meaning never changes, but the wisdom and how much you can dwell deep into these ayahs are endless. You can exhaust hundreds of lives reflecting upon. And one ayah is enough for our hidayah. It's an ayah. Ayah is an ayah. It's a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us such insight. Okay. So how was my punishment? وَالنُّذُرْ, and my warnings. So Allah mentions his azab, then he mentions how was my punishment, how were my warnings. SubhanAllah. Talk about, look at the mushrikeen, look at Qawm Nuh. And then the final verse for today's dars. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Verily we have made the Quran easy to do zikr of. I'll just use the word dhikr, I won't translate it. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Is there anybody who's going to take on the dhikr? And I'm going to end the lecture, the dars today with this verse. Okay, this verse is repeated in this surah 4 to 5 times. Really, we have made the Quran easy to do dhikr of. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Is there anybody who's going to do the dhikr? So from this, some people misunderstand this ayah. They understand it incorrectly. So we're trying to. I'm going to, inshallah, give the correct understanding of this ayah. Some people take from this the Quran is easy. That means that, okay, remove all the scholarship and ulama and Islamic law and take everything out of the way. Quran is very easy to remember. Everybody can just have full access to it. No, actually, there's 4 meanings to this. Okay. 3 apply and 1 doesn't apply. I'm ending with this. So just pay attention here and then we're done, inshallah. The 3 apply, 4 meanings of dhikr here, and 3 apply and 1 doesn't. Because they're saying the Quran is easy to do zikr. So the 3 things that we're going to say that's easy to do with the Quran. The 4th thing is not what's easy. It's something we do with the Quran, but it's not easy. It's very difficult actually. So Quran is saying that there's something easy about the Quran. So what's easy about the Quran? Zikr. So three possible meanings of dhikr. Number one is the zikr. You know what we know about dhikr, dhikrullah. Meaning tilawat is a zikr. For someone to learn the tilawat of dhikr, how long is that going to take? So the first meaning is what? The reading of it. Meaning just doing dhikr. I mean, an average person can learn qaida how long? 1 month. They know qaida. And they can start doing dhikr. They can start elevating themselves. If you do, the more tilawat you do, you surpass all your contemporaries. One of our shuyukh, Hazrat Mufti Yusuf Sahib, he was mentioning in one of his speeches, he was saying how it's very easy to clean the masjid. It's very easy to do, like if somebody asks you who's gonna broom, yeah, I'll broom. Understand? Who's gonna do that? Yeah, I'll do that. It's very easy to do. But if you ask who's gonna sit in the masjid, one juz of Quran, like that's much more. It's much more heavier as a task. You'd rather take the task of this vacuuming or something that you could do. Although you're capable of reading too, but it's very hard on the self. It's very, but it's easy. It's an easy task. You just can't get yourself to, yeah. So, but a person can learn. For him to get acquainted with reading and for him to read, what is it? Oh, well, I guess it's hard. Well, not the way I've explained it. Now I made it hard. I was trying to make it easy, but it's hard in a way. Understand? But really, what is it? It's just our own nafs. It's just because our iman and yaqeen is so weak. That's why we can't read. But what's the reality of it? How easy it is on the tongue? It's very easy. So the reading is easy. Number two is memorization. Another meaning of dhikr could be memorization. So Allah Subhanahu is saying we have made the Quran easy to memorize. If a person wants to memorize, if we have shuyukh who memorize the Quran in 1 month. People have memorized. I mean, a smart person actually memorizes in 2 years. If you're not so intelligent, maybe 4 years. If you're really not intelligent, 6 years. Literally, just not too much work, effort. People memorize it at old ages. Locally, we have a Dr. Sahib. He learned it after 40s, 50s. Then he became Maulana after that too. Then he became Hafiz after that too. Is that possible? He was already a doctor. And 50, just had time, I just did it. So reading is what? Easy. We have made the Quran easy for dhikr. For people to do tilawat, Allah Subhanahu has not blocked it. You'll do tilawat, you'll beat all your contemporaries. The choice is mine and yours. The ball is in our court. Second, memorization. Allah Subhanahu has made it easy. Now, one question you might arise, well, why are kids struggling with memorization? Right? Kids actually have it very tough when they memorize. It's because they don't follow the steps. It's their ego that's in the way. And the kids are not following what? What we just have to teach the kids is how to memorize. They always follow the wrong steps. If they can learn the proper steps, then they make effort. It's actually very easy to memorize. It's miraculous how you can memorize. Okay. The third meaning of dhikr is nasiha, taking advice. That's what you and I are doing right now. We're taking the basic tafseer of it, and we're just taking a nasiha, right? This is our creator's book. He's giving us these messages, and we're taking them home, nasiha. This is also very easy. No matter who was in this audience, will probably be able to relate to what we're talking about. So these three is how the Quran is easy. Just do the tilawat of it, memorization of it, and nasiha. But the fourth one, which is to take masail from it, to create the whole, I'll take aqidah out from it and take Islamic law from it and make it a guidance till Yawmul Qiyamah for every issue that Muslims ever come across. That's called istinbat, derivation. That is very difficult. Okay. Now, there's other ayats in the Quran that point that is a difficult task, and it's a task of those who are well acquainted with knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. So what are those verses? Those verses are لَعَلِمَهُ not here, elsewhere in the Quran. لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنْبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. Allah says, like the knowledge of it is with those who are able to derive. Another verse, فَاسْأَلْ بِهِ خَبِيرًا. Ask the very learned about the Quran. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. These types of verses. Ask the people of dhikr if you do not know. The tafsir of those verses is talking about the masail, aqidah, those types of knowledges. That's not easy. And majority of people go astray because they right, people who don't rely on, the issue we're having when people don't rely on madhab. Observing a madhab is wajib. Observing a madhab is wajib. Simple as that. It's a huge sin not to. It leads to so many problems, so many ijma'as you break. The sky's the limit of how much trouble you can create for yourself and others. It's a fitna. I would say it's such a huge fitna in our time. It's like the cancer in religion. It's that type of fitna. Allah protect us all. So many go astray because when Allah SWT says we made the Quran easy to do zikr, they're not looking at the first 2-3 meanings. They're going directly at the fourth meaning. They want to do istinbat. And they say, okay, so the Quran says we have made the Quran easy for dhikr. And that's what it means, dhikr. We're going to take the Islamic law out. They say that even if it is, that's the meaning of dhikr, but that's not going to be taken out, or that's not from here. That's a very difficult task. And it's not easy for all. And majority go astray. If somebody was to make an attempt like that, you're just going to go astray. Simply put. So now, let's take some rules. Let's just somebody goes, okay, no, I want to do istinbat. I'm not satisfied. बहुत तिलावत करता हूँ मैं. कुरान पूरा हिफ्ज़ कर लिया है मैंने. बहुत नसीहत ले लिया है मैंने. I want to do istinbat. Shall we tell the guy how to do istinbat? Istinbat is I want to create Islamic law. I want to derive Islamic law. You know all the fitnas that we have today. Ghamdiyat, Mirzahiyat, anything. It all begins with this. What we're saying is not the interpretation of this verse. They don't just want to do tilawat. They're not satisfied with that. Astaghfirullah, which is such a superb thing, tilawat. They're not satisfied with just memorizing. These gentlemen have not memorized either. They're neither doing tilawat. They're neither just taking nasihat. They want to jump to the fourth one and claim that it's easy. It's not. But that's where all the fitnas are produced. But just out of their curiosity, if they want to know both shawq istinbat ka, then I'll tell you how to do it. In order for you to do istinbat, if you want to create the Islamic law, then you need to be well acquainted with all the ayats. So the Quran has approximately 6,000 ayats. You should have the ilm of all these at one time. I mean, you and I will not have the ilm of maybe a few verses at one time. Very difficult. How are you going to have the ilm of all? Because you can't go, you have to have the ilm of all the 6,000 ayats before you in order for you to derive. All the 1,000. Number 2 criteria. 10,000, there's Sahih Hadith around 10,000. You need to have the knowledge of all the 10,000 Sahih Hadith. It should be in your mind as you're deriving Islamic law. Because how could you derive Islamic law from some hadith? Where have you overlooked the other hadith? What does that have? What do those hadith have to do with the masala that you're deriving? That's why the Hanafi school was, when it was done in a council, right? They had the best scholars of Quran, hadith. Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi was just the chairman of that. But there were thousands of students. Actually, Hanafi school it's not a one-man show. Right? It was a council. The other ones are more of a one-man show. Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, rahmatullahi alayhi, they had great caliber themselves, but they were great scholars on their own. But the council was the Hanafi school. So everyone's got it? You guys are all following? 6,000 ayat, knowledge at one time. 10,000 hadith, you need to have the knowledge at one time. And this is before you make a derivation. Number 3, all the ijma. You need to know all the consensus that has happened. Because consensus is a proof. So you're going to have to consider that into consideration. The Sahaba agree on things. What do they agree on? So you need to know you can't break that. Because what's your evidence to break that? Right? It's a big integral part of our deen, ijma. So you can't take that out. You need to know all the ijma. Your istinbat and ijtihad cannot be breaking any of the ijma, or else you're guilty. Why are you breaking the ijma? Who's giving you the license to break the ijma? No one has. Next is all the qiyas, the analogical reasoning. You need to know how to do sahih qiyas and how to do fasid qiyas. Proper analogical reasoning, what are the conditions for that? And invalid analogical reasoning, derivations which are wrong, what are the types of that? So if you have all this knowledge, then you can do istinbat. So which is a very, very difficult task. Anybody who goes on this path is going to go astray. There is ijtihad, but the way you say it is that we have a 7th degree ijtihad in the world today. 7th or 8th degree. Imam Abu Hanifa, the ijtihad they were doing was on the 1st degree. And the next centuries, 2nd degrees, 3rd degree, 4th degree has come down. Today, if you're the biggest mufti in the world and your knowledge of Quran and Hadith is what? Like water, it's like a piece of cake, and you've read all the fatwa and you're just like, you can pen the next fatwa. Whatever you're doing, the mufti, the greatest mufti, and the fatwa that he's writing, hundreds of pages that he's writing, it's hard to even call it ijtihad. It's like It's like the ijtihad of the ijtihad of the ijtihad of the ijtihad of the principles that have already been laid. Okay, so istinbat is where people go astray. So we have made the Quran easy to do zikr. The first three meanings apply, the fourth one doesn't. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the correct understanding. May Allah give us the amal wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Subhanallah bihamdihi subhanallah.